welcome to Foundation for Excellence's 7th annual banquet. My name is Priyanka Goyal, and we have an exciting evening set aside for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I will. I know we have a lot in store for you guys. I do want to thank all of you guys for making it out tonight for such a wonderful cause. At this time, I would like all the FFE board members to just stand and be acknowledged, and also welcome all of you as our lovely guests. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the chair of our event today, Ram Reddy. If you could please stand up. We could get some lights. There he is. Putting together an event like tonight is no small ordeal. There are a lot of moving pieces, and without his effort, today would not be possible. So thank you. So to start, tonight our theme is very simple. It's about shining our lights to brighten the lives of FFE scholars. If you look at our program that's on your table, the faces you see in the background are of our FFE scholars. And tonight, they are our focus. Given that Diwali has just passed last week, I'm sure many of you have enjoyed the warmth and the glow of diyas, or lamps. Let's share our lights with others. The lamp in our FFE logo symbolizes enlightenment. We would like to start our program tonight with a warm welcome to each and every one of you, with an invocation to enlightenment. This skit is conceptualized by FFE volunteers Shanti and Swati Reddy. It is performed by some FFE board members, some volunteers, as well as some FFE scholars. Please enjoy. Thank you. And again, a warm welcome to all of you. So next up, we have a fabulous performance for you. We have a piece, a fusion piece, aptly named Fusion, which is a combination of vibrant ragas or melodies intertwined with rhythmic syllables or bowls. It is a dance of exuberance and verve and evokes the energy within each of us. This piece is choreographed and composed by Guru Madurai and will be performed by Aditi Gopalan, Kiran Umesh, Navya Konda, Pavitra Nagarajan, and Saundarya Jayaraman. They are all senior disciples of Deepa Mahadevan. She is the founder and artistic director of Tiru Chittambaram School of Dance. Please enjoy. would now like to introduce Kailash Joshi to all of you. He has served as FFE president for a year now and as a board member for 6 years. Kailash is a retired IBM general manager. During the last 20 years, he has had a deep involvement with some Bay Area nonprofits. Among those are names that you guys have all heard. TIE as co-founder and president, American India Foundation as co-founder and founding president, and India Community Center, this beautiful place, as well. He's also an active startup board member. He mentors startup companies and entrepreneurs. He holds a PhD degree from Cornell University and an honorary doctorate degree from Garhwal University in his native state of Uttarakhand in India. He will share with you some of the exciting things happening at FFE, and it is really my honor to introduce all of you to Kailash Joshi. And there he is.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. And folks, what do you think of this great youthful energy coming your way with the dancers and with Priyanka opening up with a very positive? And I can assure you there's some more to come yet. So let's bear with me, the old timer, for a while. And we'll have some more coming your way. I too extend my very hearty welcome to all of you to this very beautiful special evening for so many of our volunteers, stakeholders, donors, all of you. In fact, I tell all our volunteers that everybody who is in the room is, for us, FFE, it's a who is who. It's really extraordinary, either donors, or supporters, or volunteers, or scholars, or board members, name it. It takes a village, and that's what we got. And so we're very happy everybody is here in good numbers, and we are happy with our performances. And as you get to see a very brief sketch, I'll paint in front of you of what's happening. Before I go there, though, I want to recognize some very special people also who took some time to come here to join us. Romesh and Kathy Wadhwani. He will be our keynote speaker, and we are so happy. We could not think of anybody more fitting to keynote this evening, and so we're very happy they're here. Jack Kapoor and the Bonfire team, I have to tell you, they are so gracious. They had us play golf. Last week we had great fun, and we brought home a lot of money. FFE was the beneficiary of the net proceeds of that, and so salute, and I'm glad you're here. We have Arun Kumar, one of our board members, who is going to be, hopefully soon, the Assistant Secretary of Commerce in the Obama administration. And he flew from DC this morning to be here. I guess the Senate hearings are tougher than this event. So I think we're very happy to see him here, and he's leaving us at this board, but to serve the entire country. We're very happy for that. In fact, the whole world. People dealing with the international commerce. And we have Sudha Kadau. You're going to hear her. She's our India managing trustee, and she's here. We're very happy to have her too. Done a wonderful job. Those are people I wanted to recognize. Ram Reddy, one more time, please, if you don't mind. I know he does not like to be recognized or to be complimented, but he is the chair of this banquet, and he is one of those people 24/7. His signature is in everything. Very innovative individual, and he teaches us a lot of good things. Ram. So happy. And Kohenur, she's the US staff. We have a one-person US staff. She does. You'll see her around. You're going to see her later. I call that one-woman band. I go there every week 3 times to the office, but she has assembled an impressive team of about 60 volunteers, and that is a big band. So coming to FFE, I think I'll start out by saying why many of us commit our time to this beautiful institution and why we think it's extraordinary. And the very simple statement is, it is extraordinary because it serves extraordinary teenagers. That's how we start. We take from 1.2 billion population of India, several hundred teenagers who have accomplished the following. They have secured admission into either engineering colleges or medical schools in India. Not only that, they are on the top 15% of the ranking in that admission list, which is either recognized by the state or the federal government. But they have one problem, and that is that financial circumstances are lacking, so they need a little push. That's where we come in with a modest contribution to that and give them that push so they can get the degrees done. So we start the first year and support them throughout the degree program, 4 or 5 years, depending on what they're pursuing. And then we say, thank you, goodbye, and don't forget FFE, so they come back as donors, and that is kind of our formula we have. So that is FFE. And if I can have the first slide, that tells you the 1994, when it was founded. Somebody in the back, please. Basically, it talks about what has been accomplished in the year since 1994. And it talks about the number of people scholars that we have served is over 12,000. It talks about the number of scholarships we've given is over 33,000. Amount of money is about $10 million over the years. And the only one thing that we are trying to now fix is we have a gender ratio mismatch. Right there. The male-female is 63-37. We don't like it, and we know what the reason is. The volunteers who select the students, we happen to have a predominance of male volunteers. So we are now trying to increase the female volunteers who can also bring up more girl students. We like to see that ratio around 50-50. Hopefully we'll get there in the next few years. That is our big picture. The next slide talks about a very significant event that happened for us in year 2011. Our board had an off-site meeting. We said we were running pretty flat over the years and gentle growth. We said that's not good because this is a great mission. Let us think about hard, be more critical, and put in more energy into this. So that's the conclusion we reached. That it's a very robust platform. It needs to grow at least 20% a year in terms of funds and scholarships. And we should work. So we put a target of 10,000 scholarships by the year 2020. This year we are at 2,500 scholarships, which is double the number of 2 years ago. So we are making good progress. Next chart tells you how our scorecard looks like for the last year and this year. So if you look at the 20% growth card, the U.S. fundraising, we are about 85%. This year we're trying to raise $1.2 million. We just crossed $1 million, I think, tonight as I was looking at numbers. So we got some work to do there for this year. But all others are green. India is on target with 20% plus fundraising, which is a great story. In fact, the problem we are having now, so the India team is raising money growing at a faster rate than we are. So we need to sort of work harder here, perhaps, in some ways. We already achieved the 20% plus on scholarship. So our two data points look good towards the 10,000 mark. So we have only to do 7 more years. So those who succeed me and the team and the volunteers, I think they'll have a pretty good target to work for. And I'm hoping that in year 2020, those who are here will say, you know something, that was an easy mark. We are at around 25. That's what I'd like to hope that we can achieve. The next chart talks about what are the other things that are happening. So I think we have a great overhaul of system done this year, systems. That too was Mr. Ram Reddy's generosity, his team. They put in a whole year of work, system designers, implementation. We have one of the most sophisticated systems, online applications, communications with donors. And if you notice lately, this year we sent out, and some did not receive that, but we are tying the scholars to each donor. So you know which scholar you helped last year. You know their grade point average. You know what school they're going to and how they're doing. So that is one more element we've added thanks to that new system. And that's what happened. We have a beautiful program of university matching where we have now worked with some universities in Madhya Pradesh, about 220 colleges. Whatever money FFE gives, they match the amount for the students. So, and also give them textbooks. So that is another good feature that we brought in. We have got alumni, major significant participation of alumni both in India and US, and you're going to get a sampling of it very shortly. We have donor communications are better, outreach is better, and quality is constant. That is one of the biggest things we focus on, is that we do not want to miss out on the elements of how we select and how we manage the money and how we communicate. So that's really a very quick overview. I'm sorry I'm rushing you a little bit, but we have a little time schedule here. With that, I would now like to take a minute or two and introduce a gentleman who does not require any introduction. So I went through looking at all the information on Ramesh, and I said, oh my goodness, what do I do? So by the way, you can spend a couple of hours on Google and read a lot about him. It's massive. So, a couple of dozen, they say he has created more than a couple of dozen companies. He has acquired several, sold several, One Dimension. Extraordinary Wadhwani Foundation, one of the most profound amount of work being done, from entrepreneurship to job creation to handicaps to governmental policy to US-India relationships, name it. Amazing influence. He's got the best of educations, IIT, Mumbai, Carnegie Mellon, PhD, all those things. And I said, now how do I describe him? So I said, okay, I got to come up with something interesting. So I think I did. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but I do have deep in my heart. I think Ramesh is a person who has achieved something very significant. He has achieved the ultimate in sharing. In terms of what he's achieved, spreading it around. And the number of people he influences, people talk about his net worth, it's probably 100 times what they think is in dollars, because the massive influence he's having on millions and millions of people around the world. So with that, Ramesh, please inspire us with your thoughts and your insights. We really appreciate, again, you being here.
It's really hard to live up to anything close to that. So, we are here to celebrate a very successful philanthropic journey, which is the journey of FFE. And you saw the statistics. And since all of you are participants and contributors to this journey, I think it's fair that each of you should be called a philanthropist. So, in that spirit, I thought I would share tonight some of my thoughts on philanthropy, particularly philanthropy in India. So I thought what might be interesting is to start by taking a look at the culture of philanthropy in the US and comparing the culture of philanthropy in India with it to see exactly what kind of deficit we face and exactly what that might mean for us. So you have to start by asking yourself, what is philanthropy? If you give to a temple, is it philanthropy? The answer is yes. If you give to a family member in trouble, or a friend in trouble, or a member of your community or your caste, is that philanthropy? Yes. But by my definition of philanthropy, that is not true philanthropy, because you're giving to people you know. You're giving to a temple because you hope to get something in return from the big man upstairs or the big woman. So to me, the definition of true philanthropy is when you give to people you don't know, and perhaps to people that you might not like if you actually knew them. Because then it means you're truly generous and you're doing something really major. Now, the US is founded on philanthropy. Well before the US became a country, well before the US had a Declaration of Independence in 1776, 66 years before that, there was a Christian preacher called Cotton Mather, and he preached a philosophy of doing good, of benefiting other people. And while he may have put it in the context of Christianity, the evolution of that thinking progressed to a point where it became part of the American Enlightenment. Key founding fathers like Benjamin Franklin adopted this thinking, and right from the time of the founding of our country, US, we've had this culture of philanthropy. And if you look at it in terms of how it works today, 95% of the high net worth individuals in the US today give to the community, give to people that they don't know, perhaps don't like. 88% of all households give a meaningful part of their annual income to philanthropy. And in total, all this adds up to about $300 billion a year. It's a very large number. The kinds of causes, the kinds of philanthropic causes to which all this money is given fall in just 3 or 4 key buckets. One bucket, of course, is basic needs. If you give to a food bank, you give to a volunteer organization that looks after people who can't feed themselves, can't clothe themselves, can't look after their health, that's an example of philanthropy. If you give to a cause that supports education, whether primary or secondary education, that's another example of philanthropy. Lots of people in the US give money to the arts. That is yet another example of philanthropy. So there are 3 or 4 major buckets in which people exercise their philanthropic goodwill. And in the US, it's all institutionalized. There's a very high level of transparency, high level of accountability. It's easy to get information about the different kinds of non-governmental organizations that you can support, and life goes on. Now let's compare that with what actually happens in India. And what I found really fascinating was particularly those of us who are Hindus or Buddhists or Jains, we've been brought up on principles of dharma and karma, right? What does dharma actually mean? Dharma is all about doing your duty, expecting no rewards, right? That's what the Bhagavad Gita says when Krishna talks to Arjuna. Dharma is about doing the right thing. So you can see the similarity between the principles of dharma, doing the right thing, versus what Cotton Mather said in the US 300 years ago when he wrote this essay about doing the right thing too. Very similar, except that the Bhagavad Gita has been around for over 1,000 years. 2,000 years, since around the 1st century BC, 1st century AD. And that's one of the key tenets of the culture that we've been brought up in. If you look at another key aspect, which is about karma, it's all about the notion that every action that you take starts a cycle of cause and effect, or a cycle of action and reaction. And the interpretation of that is if you do something good for someone else, it will come back to you in an even bigger way, and something good will happen to you. You would have thought that with these kinds of principles and these kinds of values that we've grown up with, philanthropy in India, helping people other than your immediate temple and your immediate tribe, would be the most natural thing, but it's not. India has, I would say, a pathetic record in philanthropy. Statistics in India, as I have learned over the last 10 years, are largely bogus. You have to really dig deep to try and understand what any number means and exactly how to then conduct yourself. But I think it's fair to say that true philanthropy, excluding contributions to temples, something in the range of around $2 or $3 billion a year. 1% of what we do in the US. Do you not think for a country of 1.2 billion people, 4 times the population of the US, with 2,000 years of dharma and karma as part of our value system, doing 1% of what the US does, we should really be ashamed of ourselves? I certainly feel that way. And I feel there is so much more we can do. So that leads me to the next important topic in philanthropy in India, which is, why does such a large deficit exist? I mean, how do you explain the fact that with everything that should have caused us to be far more philanthropic on a pro rata basis compared to the US, we're not, we're far behind? What's the rationale? Now clearly, culture is part of it. I'd like to think it's not because we are selfish people. I'd like to think that the goodness in our hearts is as good or as important and as central to our core as the goodness in the heart of any other nationality or Americans, for example. So I started thinking about this more in terms of the difficulties of execution of philanthropy in India rather than the absence of intent to be philanthropic in India, because I found it really, really hard to accept that, being of Indian origin, being an Indian American. And as I started digging into these obstacles, in fact, it does turn out that there are many, many obstacles to being a philanthropist in India. There are supposed to be somewhere between 1 million and 2 million NGOs in India. Yet, it's very hard to figure out who they are. It's even harder to figure out what they do. It's even harder to figure out how accountable and transparent they are in handling the funds that they receive from donors. It is virtually impossible to find out whether they measure impact, because you can contribute all the money you want, but in the end, if you aren't really making a difference, does it really matter? So there's very little measurement of impact. For most NGOs, there is in fact very little impact, so maybe that's why they don't want to measure it. And then there's a challenge in terms of scaling. So if there are good NGOs that in fact are accountable, that are in fact achieving impact, it's very hard to get them beyond their thinking of a 2-person NGO, 3-person NGO, 4-person NGO, where you can help 10 people, 20 people, or 100 people. And every person you help, you're doing great good. But wouldn't it be better if you could help 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 million? And most Indian NGOs can't do that and don't know how to do that. So we have a whole bunch of challenges with the NGO system in India. It's very hard to scale, and that's just one of the obstacles that we have which causes this deficit of philanthropy. Now, another dimension of this deficit is determining what to focus on as a philanthropist, right? So, basic needs. If you help someone feed themselves, you're doing God's work, and no one can say that this is not important. But you're only giving that person one meal for one day. You're not fundamentally changing the trajectory of their lives. You're not changing the lives of their family. You're not changing the lives of the next generations who will come after them. It's a very difficult trade-off, because if you feed someone, you clothe someone, you help someone achieve better health, you are in fact doing great philanthropic work, but it may or may not be sustainable. On the other hand, if you take a second dimension, education, if you educate someone, both primary, secondary, and beyond, and as a result of that, they become doctors and engineers, and because they become doctors and engineers, they have high-paying jobs, sustainable jobs. The next generation of their families will be in a completely different place from what their parents were. You have completely transformed not only their lives, but their families' lives and the families of multiple generations to come after them. Both very important, yet one has long-lasting benefits, the other is a short-term benefit. If you take a third dimension of this, people may go to school, people may go to college, but may not be able to get jobs, because as I have found in India, getting a degree is absolutely no indicator of your ability to get a job. Because you may have a degree, but you may not have a skill. You may have a degree, but you may not have competence. You may have hard skills, but you may not have soft skills. There are all kinds of challenges and obstacles in terms of getting jobs in an economy that actually produces very few jobs, and education is not enough. So the whole notion of job creation as an area of philanthropy is something that very few people had thought about in India, because the assumption was All you have to do is create enough people with, bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, and the jobs will take care of themselves. And then what I learned as I dug into it, because again, government statistics are completely bogus, is you look at the last 10 years, in which India has grown 7 or 8% a year. The GDP over a 10-year period, logically, has grown around 70-80%. Now, if you just apply linear math, you would say, okay, the number of jobs available in India should have grown by 70 or 80%. Therefore, there should be lots of job opportunity. And if people had degrees, how hard can it be for them to get a job if they really want to get one? Here are the real numbers. India has a work base of 450 million employed people. Of those, only a tiny fraction, around 10 to 15%, because again these numbers are hard to be precise with, only 10 to 15% have sustainable, permanent, salaried or full-time hourly jobs. The rest are either farmers, laborers, contract workers. And when I dug really, really deep, because I had meetings with all kinds of people in the government and I challenged the numbers, and as we peeled the onion layer by layer, it turned out that with a 70 or 80% growth in our economy, we only produced 15 million net new jobs in the last 7 years. And we graduate 12 million people every year who seek jobs. 84 million people who need jobs in 7 years, 15 million net new jobs created. All the other numbers we get from the government are not net new jobs, they are transfers of people from the farming status, where they are considered to be self-employed, to laborers on construction sites where they're not earning that much more and where their employment is not that much more secure than that of being a subsistence level farmer. So the end result is education is not a guarantee of employment in India, much more likely to be true in the US, certainly not in India. So I see the problem of philanthropy in India, and one of the reasons for the deficit, the need to address three key dimensions. The dimension of basic needs. All of us would feel obliged and certainly emotionally driven to help people who have a basic need, recognizing that even though it's a short-term solution, it shows compassion on our parts. But for longer-term philanthropic benefit, education and job creation are probably two of the most important areas that India needs to focus on. So in that context, when I look at the work that FFE is doing in taking people from poor backgrounds and providing them with a network and providing them with financial assistance, the end result of which is that, as you saw in the numbers, 12,000 people have been helped, and 6,000 people have graduated from the program and have actually become doctors and engineers. This is really incredibly important work because it represents a lifetime improvement for them, for their families, and for the next many generations. Similarly, it was this kind of thinking that got me to select the mission of the Wadhwani Foundation to focus on job creation and economic acceleration in India and the emerging economies. So we have a number of initiatives, as you heard Kailash mention. The three that perhaps are nearest and dearest to my heart, one of them is the National Entrepreneurship Network, because in the end, if you're going to create net new jobs in India, it's going to come from net new entrepreneurs. The sons and daughters of the Birlas and the Ambanis can only do so much. We need to create a whole generation of hundreds of thousands of first-generation entrepreneurs whose families have not been business families, and we need to enable them to be successful entrepreneurs. And if we could create or help in creating 100,000 or 500,000 new entrepreneurs, and if each of them hired 5 to 10 people on the average with sustainable high-quality jobs, For each of those full-time, high-quality jobs which are direct, there are another 5 jobs that are indirect. All of a sudden, you're changing the trajectories of the lives of millions of people. Hence, the National Entrepreneurship Network. A second big initiative that I care about very deeply is the National Skills Network. Because, as you heard the statistics I just mentioned over the last few minutes, you recognize that just having a degree does not guarantee a job. You have to have skills training, you have to have vocational training to become employable. You have to do this in connection with the employer community. You have to make sure that the skills that are being provided are market driven. And this is what we have begun to do in the last couple of years. It's a huge problem. And hopefully over the next 10 years or 15 years, significant impact at the level of millions of net new jobs can be achieved. The third is opportunities for the disabled. I'm sure many of you know that India has 70 million disabled people. They face all kinds of obstacles. And even though the government has passed laws that say 3% of the jobs should be given to disabled people, the actual implementation of those laws, which were passed many, many years ago, is less than 0.3% of the employees in Indian government organizations, forget private industry, less than 0.3% are disabled people. So, with the opportunities for this third initiative of ours, the Opportunities Network for the Disabled, the idea is for us to recruit disabled people, give them vocational training, place them in jobs. It's very, very hard to do. Recruiting people is tough. Getting their parents to give permission for them to be trained is tougher. Training them is even tougher, and placing them is even tougher. And the single most difficult thing to do is making sure that they stay employed for at least a year, because it's very easy to place someone, and if that person no longer has a job 30 days later, have you actually helped or have you hurt? Because, in a sense, you set high expectations and then you've dashed those expectations. So it is a challenging problem, but one that we are working on. So in a sense, that leads me to my third and last topic for this evening, which is, does philanthropy only change the beneficiary, or does philanthropy also change the donor? Because there is a point of view that, hey, all you have to do is give money, and once you've given it, whether it's to FFE or to any other great philanthropic organization, guilt is off your mind, you've done what you could, someone else's problem, Kailash, Prabhu Goel, others will take the ball from there. And my challenge to you is that that's not the right way to think about philanthropy. Particularly for those of us who have been privileged to come to the US, particularly for those of us who live in Silicon Valley, we all know better than anybody else on the planet the power of innovation, the power of creativity, the power of passion, the power of energy. This is what we do all day long when we build startups, when we build companies. When the great companies of Silicon Valley have been built by Indian Americans working for other CEOs, this is what we do all day long. Imagine if we applied not just our money to philanthropy, but we applied our passion, our energy, our creativity, our time. How much more effective, how much more impact, how much greater would be the difference and the good that you would do as philanthropists. So, the question I ask myself, and the question I'd like to pose to you, is, if you did all this, and you applied more than just money, and you applied your time and creativity and passion, what would this mean for you? Not for the beneficiary. We all understand how much good we can do for the beneficiaries. We have 12 of the FFE graduates right here in this room. I met 2 of them in the reception just before coming in here. It's incredible to see how you have changed their lives. So we don't need to ask the question of what this means for the beneficiary. That's fantastic stuff. But even if you look at it from a donor standpoint, when I've talked to many of you, because I meet many of you at other events, I get the sense that when you do more than give your money, when you also give your time and your mind and your energy, you get that extra psychic satisfaction of being part of something bigger. You get the satisfaction of knowing that you did more than what just someone with lots of money could do. You were able to make a much bigger difference. Again, I mentioned the FFE, but I'd like to share and I'd like to close my talk with two personal anecdotes, which really brought this to life for me. I mentioned to you that one of our big initiatives at the Vadwani Foundation is the National Entrepreneurship Network. Every year, we host something called E-Week, in which we take the 500 colleges and universities in India, where we have launched entrepreneurship programs and e-clubs, and we've trained entrepreneurship faculty and all that good stuff. And we run a competition, and we take the winners of that competition, and we bring them to Bangalore. We pay for all their travel. Typically, it's around 2,000 people out of the 100,000 students who are taking entrepreneurship programs in any given year. And these are the best of the best. These are the students with the greatest passion for entrepreneurship, the ones most likely to be starting their own companies. And I happen to be at one of these events. It's the only E-Week I've been to in the last 10 years that we've been building National Entrepreneurship Network. This was about 3 years ago. And I met these 2,000 kids. They were all, I would say, between 15 and 20. And I have not seen a more energetic, passionate, creative, hard-driving, articulate, thoughtful group of kids anywhere. I'm sure if I looked all month long, it would be hard to match them with 2,000 kids at Stanford University. All these people are missing is the ability to connect the dots between what they're learning and an opportunity to start a company. So when you meet 2,000 kids like that at one event, you come away, and I came away, feeling so energized that in spite of all the obstacles that you would face as a philanthropist in India, for the reasons I mentioned to you earlier, it washes away all those obstacles, and you have this incredible desire to want to do something really big. That was one anecdote. The second anecdote, and perhaps the one that moved me more, was a few years ago. Kathy and I were in Bangalore, and one of the programs that we've been funding for creating opportunities for the disabled is with the Association of the Physically Disabled in Bangalore. And since we were there in Bangalore, they invited us, and we went there and spent the morning. And I met 40 kids that we were helping in terms of providing them with vocational training so that they could become employable. And one of the kids had cerebral palsy. He was about 16 years old. His father had brought him to this meeting with me in a shopping cart because he couldn't afford a wheelchair. And when I asked him how they were earning their money, this kid with a tiny amount of money from our little foundation had learned how to paint with his feet and was earning money for the whole family. And they presented me with one of his paintings, absolutely beautiful, and I couldn't believe it. So tears started coming down my cheeks, and the father said, "Why are you crying?" And I couldn't explain it to him. I couldn't tell him why. But I think you understand. Because the revelation that hit me at that moment was that it takes so little to be able to do so much in their lives. And they expect so little. And when you can give them so much, what a fantastic difference you're actually making. It doesn't matter whether it's $10 or $1 million. And that moment has stayed with me forever. We have that painting, beautiful painting. I always think about that kid with cerebral palsy. Whenever I think about the obstacles of philanthropy in India, they are nothing compared to what you can achieve. So I just encourage you Whatever you do, whether it's $10 or $10 million, doesn't matter. Also add that special blend of your time, your energy, your passion, and you'll see how much it achieves. Thank you.
I think the best way I can say to you is that it's so wonderful, and we are so grateful for you to have opened up your heart and shared with us the deepest of your insights and your thoughts and all the private moments. We really appreciate that very much. I'm sure everybody will take away a bunch of it, and also how not many people can be the check and balances with the giant organizations like Government of India, and to give them show them some light. That's really pretty valuable stuff, and we appreciate your interest in that area, because that is the country of our roots, and we all think that there should be improvement. So we appreciate all that also. Thank you again. This time, I'd like to, this FFE has got the kind of alignment of stars. So I'm going to introduce to you now our managing trustee of the India FFE organization, Sudha Kedaf. She's actually a PhD, University of Austin Immunology Authority on HIV, AIDS, and done a lot of work in that area. But she went to India about 4 or 5 years ago and decided that she doesn't want to work. She wants to work on FFE. She's a full-time volunteer, managing trustee that has done amazing things, including the start of fundraising in India I talked about, which is climbing at a faster rate than here. Created amazing corporate relationships and partnerships, and charged up the alumni like no one before. So with that, Sudha, please come and give us your perspective on what you're doing in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Kailashji, for your very generous words. I'd like to start by saying it's my absolute privilege, pleasure, and delight to be here this evening. I'm very excited to see a room full of warm supporters of the organization who believe in the cause and want to be part of our journey of growth. And I want to tell you a little bit more about what happens in India. You've probably heard stories about how we are engaging with our scholars, and I want to elaborate a little bit more about it so that you have a much clearer idea of where your money goes and how well we're doing in India as well. The first slide, please. I'd like to start by saying that the operations in Bangalore started in 2010, and since then we've been administering the scholarship program from Bangalore. And in probably the 14-15 years before that, it was the program was run from the Santa Clara office. While we wait for the slide to come on, I'd just like to say that we have a team of about 12 people in Bangalore who play very important roles, varied roles, and have helped us grow in India. This includes the administration of the scholarship program. We have a huge and growing alumni base, and we have an alumni relations team that works for them. We also have a very strong fundraising team in India that works with individuals as well as corporates, trying to forge new partnerships with corporates. And we also have a very strong donor program. The first slide, please. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to step down. I'm sorry if I held you up. I didn't know you all could see that. Like I said before, we have a strong team in Bangalore. I want to say that the FFE India Trust started in the year 2003. And it started in India when our own scholars graduated, got jobs, and wanted to give back to the foundation. And what a wonderful way to start the trust in India. They wanted to contribute in rupees, and that's the birth of FFE India Trust in India. We have an office in Bangalore. We have the FFE India trustees working very closely with the board in the US. So the two boards work very closely, seamlessly to achieve our common goal. And our common goal, of course, is to expand our outreach to more and more students in India, because we know that the need is vast and our resources are limited. And we want to stretch both to the extent that we can. We are working very closely, both the teams in India and in the US, to scale the scholarship program. And of course, the only way we can do that is if we can raise more funds. With regard to the scholarship program, we have, thanks to Mr. Ram Reddy, a member of our board, he has created the most dynamic, robust, online scholarship application process where students in India, anywhere in India, can now access the foundation and can apply for a scholarship. And as you all know, we have a very rigorous method of making sure that students truly qualify for our scholarships. Kailashi has mentioned the two important criteria. One is financial need, and the second is academic excellence. And we are able to get our scholars through our vast network of volunteers on the ground. So I must say that we are probably the only organization in India that has a pan-India presence. We are in 25 states. We have over 500 volunteers who work very closely with us, and that number is increasing. And we find that every student who is recommended for a scholarship has actually had a verification visit on the ground by one of these volunteers who truly verifies the genuineness of need of that individual. So when the scholarship application form comes to our organization, it's a pre-approved, almost pre-approved application form that comes in. And I want to say that we are all working to increase the ratio of women who get scholarships. And one way we're doing that is to recruit more volunteers, women volunteers. And I'd like to reach out to all of you. I know many of you, all of you come from different parts of India. If you could recommend anybody in your network who would fulfill this role, we'd be delighted to have them involved with the foundation. Next slide, please. I'm not sure everybody knows about our sustainability model, so I'll tell you very briefly about it. When a student applies for a scholarship and is awarded a scholarship, they undertake a very simple pledge. And this pledge is merely a moral obligation that each individual student, after they've graduated and have got a job, will support the education of at least 2 students through the foundation. And if every student were to do that, it would be a self-sustaining organization and would not have to look very far out to other donors to help. Of course, it would enrich the foundation with more donors participating, but then it would be a self-sustaining organization. And I must say that our alumni have taken this role rather seriously. Many of them are contributing in numerous ways. They have contributed monetarily. Many of them are connecting us to their corporates, who then fund our scholarship program. Many of them give of their time or their talent. And it's a wonderful network that has grown over the years. We are building our community on the ground, and that's what we do well in India. We do this by inviting our scholars to events that we hold in various cities in India. So we've had 8 such events last year. And in each of these events, we call together scholars who get their scholarship awards. We call the alumni from that region. We call donors. We call volunteers. All the stakeholders are in one room. It's a powerful network of individuals, all of whom who want to help each other. And I think this power of networking has really we are promoting leveraging of this network among these stakeholders. And I think that has worked, it's working in India. We're trying to reach out to as many alumni as possible. They are our best ambassadors. They're the best role models for our current scholars. Last year, as I mentioned, we've had 8 events in India. We've met over 1,000 individuals whose lives have been touched by FFE. And these numbers are growing, so we have 2 and 3 events sometimes a month. I also am very proud to say that the total number of alumni who are giving back to the foundation, that's steadily increasing over the years. You'll see 12 of them here today, but several events in India. At a single event, we have the opportunity of meeting 40, 50 of them. And all of them are contributing in whatever way they can. Next slide, please. So we're trying to promote and make sure that students feel proud, they have a sense of pride and belonging to this FFE family. And who is this FFE family? So we give the student a scholarship. They perform well. They get a scholarship for the 4 years or 5 years of education. And they can then leverage our network. And our network includes the trustees and the management. We have the facilitators, the volunteers on the ground. And these volunteers often serve the role of mentors to these students. And the mentoring can continue beyond the 4 or 5 years of education. So many of our students stay connected with these volunteers 10, 12 years after they've graduated. So that's the power of that network. We have alumni who are now in corporates. Students are looking for jobs. Students need advice. And this network is very powerful indeed. We also have our donors who want to take on the role of mentoring if that's something that they desire to do. So we have this opportunity for donors to meet with students and to get as involved as they would like with the students in terms of career guidance or anything that the student needs. Next slide, please. More recently, FFE was awarded a sizable grant from the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. And this grant is to support 400 engineering students for the next 4 years. We're talking about scale. This is one way that we are moving in that direction. And to us, this was an endorsement from an international organization that believes in our work. And I think it is beyond that. For us in India, given the complications of running an NGO in India, and Ramesh has, Dr. Wadhwani has told you a lot about it, elaborated about the complexities of an NGO in India, I can tell you that we are above several of those NGOs simply because of our track record. And I want to thank all of you donors here, our supporters here, who have helped get that track record for us in the last, through your support for the last 15 to 18 years. We've been around for about 18. So thank you all. It has helped a foundation like the Dell Foundation focus, point or support us because of our focus in engineering and medicine, our transparency, our accountability, and our strong track record. Our good governance standards, which is highly questionable in India for a lot of NGOs, has helped us stand apart from the crowd. And I'm very glad that we have this new partnership that we've launched this year. We think it'll be great for the foundation. We are going to have Dell scholars in India, no different from the Dell scholars in America, and we think we can take this to a different level. We are delighted that we have this new partnership on the ground. We also find that with new donors, we have new challenges, one of which Dr. Badwani again alluded to, which is giving a scholarship check alone doesn't prepare a student to get a well-paying job. So we are doing what we can to work with the Dell Foundation to provide soft skills and other training so that students are better prepared to get the jobs, to interview, whatever skills that they need so that they can be successful in their careers. And this is a new addition that we're going to start providing to our scholars beginning this year. Next slide, please. The trust has been around since 2003, and our numbers have grown in terms of our partnerships with corporates. We have over 1,000 individual donors contributing to the organization, and you can see that our volunteer base is growing. We need all of this and more. And one important thing I want to mention here is that 100% of what you donate goes directly through the scholarship. And how is this possible? Clearly, we have operating costs both in India and in the US. And that is possible through a very generous grant by Dr. Prabhu Goyal and Mrs. Poonam Goyal. Every year, this generous grant goes to support the operating costs of the offices in Santa Clara and in Bangalore. And I also want to thank both of you, Dr. Prabhu Goyal and Mrs. Poonam Goyal, for having started this foundation, for having us brought us all together this evening. And the ability and the chance and the opportunity to do something for a lot of people. And I hope all of us can do as much as we can so we can go away saying that we may have made a difference. Of course, I can't end this without thanking our wonderful team in India. We have a very dynamic team in India. I mentioned that they take care of the alumni, the donors, and our scholars. All of these numbers are growing, and I couldn't have done it without them. So you'll hear more about the team while you have your dinner. I'd also like, at this point, to bring my colleague, unfortunately, who's not here, but you're going to hear his message by video. This is Dr. Professor Rishikesha Krishnan. He's a professor of corporate strategy at IIM Bangalore, a trustee of FFE India Trust. I work very closely with him, and he's been a wonderful resource for the organization. He was also listed among the top 50 thinkers of India this year. So we're all in good hands, and he has a very important message which I'd like for you all to hear through video. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
So I think we just saw the power of energy and passion and hope. It is now my pleasure to introduce someone to the stage who is not going to be a stranger to very many of you. Shamik Mehta is an active angel investor and an active philanthropist. He and his wife Parul are active supporters of 3 causes: domestic violence, education, and cancer research. He joined TIBCO when it was an early stage startup as the head of their Asia operations. Post TIBCO's IPO, he ran worldwide sales for TIBCO Finance. Prior to that, he spent 13 years at Hewlett-Packard, holding key positions in various areas. I would like to invite Shamik Mehta to the stage.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks Priyanka and thanks FFE. You know what, I've been listening to the presentation, particularly to me the most touching part has been the scholars and the recipients. But you know, they're not the recipients, actually they're the givers. We are the recipients because we can see the difference they've made and how much they've contributed to us. And that's what I'm here for. You know, think about it, I look at all of us in this group. What are we, 400, 500 people here? There's only one thing in common amongst all of us, and that's education. Without that, none of us would be sitting here in this room in any capacity that we are in today and feel good about ourselves. So all I'm going to ask you, we are 500 of us, why can't we make a difference in the lives of about 100 students? That's all we need to do. If we can pledge $300,000, that would make the difference of about 100 students, which really translates to about 400 plus lives. And then think about the sustainability. Down the years, how many more lives would get better? And I'm quite sure and confident, actually, you know what? We are going to exceed that number. That's what we are going to do. And I'd like to introduce to you my partner who's going to help us get there.
Hello, Shamik. It's nice to be here. Thank you everyone for being here today. I'm going to share my stories. I've never shared this with many of you before, or in fact any of you before. So I hope you can see a picture. But here is my story. In 2005, my husband moved to the Bay Area. He started working for Williams-Sonoma. And then I used to visit Bay Area, visited NAS Theater, Sunnyvale, all the charts. And now I know that Santa Clara is here. I went back, I was like, I remember Santa Clara. I received checks, and I used to deposit those checks at my bank account at my college campus, and it said FFE Santa Clara. And that's all I had in my mind. I went back, I googled FFE Santa Clara. Sure enough, I got the address. 2006 Feb, when I was here, I came down, I visited the FFE office, and Suresh Seshan sir taught me about the FFE, what they do here, and I met such humble people. I can't tell you how transforming it was. The best of all, I saw a brochure, and I picked it up, and I started crying. My husband said, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, I cannot explain. This is tears of joy, tears of realization that the painful past is over, and it's all, bright future, and the present is so beautiful and bright. So the picture that you see, I hope it's up. I hope this is the picture of me 15 years ago at Hotel Dash Prakash. I attended an FFE banquet there. If I'm up there, I'm in a brown salwar kameez to the leftmost. Yeah. So there I am, in a cloth that didn't fit me. My parents could barely feed, but they wanted me to study hard and get the scholarship, and FFE gave it to me. And to them, I owe this success. I've transformed my parents' lives. I've adopted 3 scholars. I tried to speak in as many events as possible to help as many kids as I can. So, Shamik, that's what FFE does. It creates success. I am here. 12 of us are here, and I hope we can create more success.
I think we can.
So now we are embarking on something very special. This is my favorite part of the evening, and I hope it will be yours as well. We have the incredible honor of being able to hear from our very own FFE scholars who are here with us today. A lot of them have been living here in the Bay Area, but a few of them have traveled to be here with us today. We are so grateful that they are going to be able to share their story with us. And alluding to Dr. Wadhwani's speech, I think most of you will like them. And without further ado, I'm going to let them tell their stories. Please welcome them.
Give, but give until it hurts. Good evening, everyone. My name is Vidyasagar Pampala, and I work as an IBM consultant. We are a family of 5 living at Chennai. During my high school, our family condition was so bad. We had electricity at home. My father lost his job. My elder sister has Down syndrome. We could not afford and never give better medical attention to her. And my second elder sister was also studying at the same time. I was fortunate to know a benevolent local Hindi tutor, Mr. Ranganathan, who introduced me and my sister to an FFE facilitator, Madam Kanti. I got assistance from FFE for doing my Bachelor's of Engineering, and my sister got her for her MCA. My initial thanks to my parents who allowed me to continue my education instead of asking me to go and work. Also, I have an unpayable debt to FFE and my well-wishers who helped me to continue my education, everything.
I saw a lot of students around me who had gotten ranks and they were celebrating. for a simple reason. I knew that my mother's salary or our finances would not let me continue my education. It was at this time that Foundation for Excellence came to my rescue. It funded 4 years of my education. It was, it was not just a paycheck. It told me that somebody believed in me when no one else did. It told me that I got back my license to dream. All through this, my mother stood by my side. Whenever my spirits flagged, she was around there to prop it up. How she did it while facing the same amount of hardships I did, I still don't know to this day. But I sure am happy to be introducing her to you.
Thank you. And I haven't expected such an ovation. For all this, no, all mother could have done the same thing in my place. And you, what a mother's responsibility that I carried out. But it is because of that everything I attribute to the Foundation for Excellence. It is because of his timely help my son could finish his studies and also the undergraduate studies also. But one thing that always came into contact with the Foundation for Excellence is a different story for you. And I have crossed all the hurdles to reach the final place. And that FFE was the last hope for me. Otherwise, my son had to discontinue his studies. And he had proved himself that he could enter into IIT. That question was where to go for money, how to educate him. So this thought troubled my mind, and I was ready to seek help from my people who gave me harsh advices. One of my relatives advised me to beg. Actually, I was ready to take the begging bowl in my hand, but some of my people filled the bowl with only their valuable advices, not with their money. So then, I have actually literally have taken the book since the begging. Then some of them advised me to seek the help of the religious organization. Then where I found the hierarchy is unapproachable. Then I tried with the local education trust, and I found there is already a long list of students waiting for their turn. Then I tried with a bank. Then here that rules and regulations are such that my income from teachers' job could not make me as a guarantor to this for my application. The next day, I lost hope. Only I raised my hands and cried, and I prayed God, please not to punish my son. And that was the thing. I prayed. That I know that I didn't have a penny in my hand. How to arrange for the money? Nowhere to go, no one to seek, and no resource in my hand. And then with heavy heart, I went to school. There my colleague, an angel, she asked me to seek FFE. Then I asked for the details. She took me to Mr. Chella Srinivasan, who was then the facilitator to the foundation. And he asked the details. We furnished everything. And the FFE was the last hope for me. If we could not get, that is the ruin of my son's life. I couldn't do anything. We should pray in God. Please, oh, mercy on my son. Don't punish him. And that my prayer had been answered. Then next day I went to school. My colleague, with her help, I sought Mr. Chella Srinivasan's help. Within a month, he phoned me to collect the bill, check. When I saw the check, we were taken aback because it carried a very big, huge amount which we haven't seen in our life. Then that time I found my prayer had been answered. My agony had been removed, abated. And the light has entered into our life, darkness vanished. And the destiny had been changed. With tears rolling down my cheeks, I thanked God. And I felt how I could repay FFE. Then I told my son, study well, pay back my FFE. Last year I attended the meeting, FFE meeting in Chennai held. That time I noticed the facilitator's face with a face filled with satisfaction because that mission had been accomplished. And then I saw the parents when their wards are receiving the scholarship check, the tears trickling at the corner of their eyes. Immediately I felt I was one among them once, and my heart filled with ecstasy, with thanks to FFE for all this. Otherwise, life would have been different for us. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hello, I am Siddharth. I work here at Juniper Networks in Bay Area. It was way back in 2001 when I got admitted into an engineering course. I was looking for scholarship which would help me complete the course. I could just not depend on my family to fund the entire educational needs. Then I inquired about scholarships in my college, and I was quite disappointed because all the scholarships were tied to a particular caste or to a particular community. That means if you have the merit and you don't belong to that caste or community, you are not eligible for that. Then I started looking for other means. Other means was going for a bank loan. Although the government says that bank loan for education should be given without any collateral security, but when you go to the bank, actually the manager pushes you for a collateral security. Otherwise it doesn't give you the loan. So I was not having much for collateral security and I could not get a loan from the college, from the bank. So I got to know of FFE through a circular in the college, and I was happy to know that it is purely based on merit from needs basis and not tied to anything that you belong to a particular caste or community. Then I was fortunate enough to have that scholarship which helped me complete my education. I would say that the kind of impact FFE makes is huge actually. It's not only on an individual but also on his family. So Since I completed my graduation, I have been associated with FFE towards its mission in one or the other way.
Hi everyone, my name is Bismay Mishra. I was awarded with an FFE scholarship through 2003 through 2007. I've been working with a business consulting firm called ZS Associates for about 6.5 years now, and I'm currently transitioning to the Bay Area. I'll be joining a pharmaceutical company in the marketing division. All this obviously was possible a lot by the contributions that FFE made to my life, the financial contribution, but beyond that, the contribution that FFE made a huge impact, and it changed my life quite a lot, and I'll explain why. We've already heard all these amazing stories. I feel humbled being here in the presence of, people like you and people like, all these scholars. We all have shared our share of hardships. We've gone through different troubling times. The one thing I want to call out is the financial help you provide does not just help us financially. It gives us a big boost of courage. It gives us hope. That help gives us hope, which helps us fight with courage all the other different problems that we face in life. What I'm going to share is a very personal thing with me. When I was 11 years old, I was abused physically by a stranger. And that put me through years of darkness in my life. I couldn't share it with my family. Of course, being 11-year-old means you're messed up in your head. And for a long time, I obviously blamed myself. I didn't understand what did I do. And I lost any goal in my life. Like other kids who would dream of being something or living their lives to the fullest. I didn't have any. And but when I was home, I was a lot home. I stopped going out. I stopped interacting with my friends. I saw what my parents were doing. They're fighting tooth and nail to sustain me and my brother through education. I saw the problems that they were going through. And that eventually became the agenda in my life, is to do something for them. And even if I don't care anything about my own life. The problems still existed. There were financial problems when I was trying to do something, study better, work through all the problems. There were hindrances. The incident that happened to me when I was a kid, it did two things. It eliminated hope, and it built a huge mistrust with strangers. And FFE exactly did the reverse. When I started studying well, and I got scholarships from schools and different organizations, the one thing I noticed is the way one stranger did something really terrible to me, these were all strangers who were coming forward to help me. I had no connections with them. And that was reversing something that was deeply enrooted in me because of that incident, which was that I can start trusting strangers. These are people who don't know me, and they're helping me out. They don't know how their help is also coming to me. The other thing that happened was the fact that when I went through my engineering entrance exams and I had a seat in one of the NITs, we had huge financial difficulties. We didn't have enough funds to put me through the admissions process and the fees. And that's when FFE came in. And that was again a big hope that again kind of led me to believe that if I keep trying, there will be help coming to me from different quarters, and I will go through this. 12 years down the line, I'm fairly confident. I'm confident enough to realize that that was a dark incident in my life which I had nothing to do with. I don't blame myself for anything. I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished. I've been able to put through my brother through his education. I support my parents. I supported my grandparents when they were alive. I'm sponsoring 2 kids through FFE, and I'm going to sponsor kids through my friend's school. All I want to say is, don't think of the financial help that you provide just as financial help. It can help people alleviate their problems in completely different dimensions, which you might not ever think of or dream of. And that's what it has done to me. Now I'm in a position where I'm able to help other kids who have financial problems, but I'm also in a position where I can go back to kids who have suffered problems like me and tell them it gets better. Thanks a lot. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry we're running a bit late, quite a bit late actually, and I'm very happy you sort of put up with us. And just a few more minutes. I got a duty to do some recognition, which is a heavy recognition. I need some help. So Prabhu, would you please come over? And Bank was the president of this organization for countless years, ever since the beginning. So I want to bring him back and help me with this, and Prabhu. So why don't you start?
Ladies and gentlemen, this recognition is, I guess my time is over. No? I was saying that this recognition is overdue by a couple of years. Over the years, FFE has been lucky to have the services of some exceptional individuals who have helped FFE scale and transform. One such individual is Suresh Session. He's here in the audience. And Mr. Fondekar, who passed away in 2009, was another such individual. Mr. Fondekar was in charge of day-to-day operations at FFE for 9 years. And, he oversaw scholarship processing, donor servicing, all those kind of things. So the reputation for transparency and reputation for efficiency that FFE got to acquire had a great deal to do with the hard work of Mr. Fondekar. He retired as a very senior, Indian Railways official, and his commitment to work was so exemplary that every day he used to take 90 minutes each way to commute to office. Every day, without fail. It was raining or, cold. He would be in the office every single day. And he was a caring, he was a warm and giving individual. And his extended families, he got involved with FFE as well. So on behalf of FFE, on behalf of the extended family of FFE, I would request Mrs. Fondekar to come here, and on behalf of FFE, we would like to offer a token of appreciation to the dedication of Mr. Fondekar. So, if you remember, one of the scholars had mentioned that he was very happy to meet the donor who had supported him in his in was going to college, and that donor was Biren, right here. Thank you very much.
The next one is going to be a little bit of a surprise, perhaps. You heard the FFE India story, and we started about 2010, the whole foundation. We also started fundraising in India. This year, India will probably get to maybe over $500,000 and climbing beautifully. The operations are run meticulously well, and the person who's dedicated, she's got a great team, great support. Professor Krishnan, we saw him on the video, but Sudha has done one exemplary job. Sudha, you have to come and accept our appreciation. Where are you? Sudha doesn't know. Yeah, Sudha. Yeah. So you can showing the thing is for outstanding leadership in developing FFE India. That is our recognition for Sudha. And the other person who I hope he hasn't run away from the room here is an amazing individual. I told him just recently, I said, in my 45 years of working at places like IBM and different organizations, charities, I have met maybe a dozen people whom I call exemplary. And after seeing him in work for over a year now, and his dedication, his commitment, and what he has done for FFE, I told him I would bring all those people who are exemplary and show you to them to say, by the way, this is the top of the line exemplary, and that happens to be our Ram Reddy. So Ram, you have to come up here. This recognition is for countless hours of engagement in the design and development of the most sophisticated new system, a most valuable gift. It did not cost FFE a penny. He bore all the expenses, all the resources, his own personal time, his employees, whatever, his private company, so he can do it. But we are so amazed and so impressed and so grateful and indebted. So the least we can do is present you this. And just the last few minutes, I just want to have Kohinoor come here. Kohinoor, come please. I mentioned to you our entire US operations are right here. She does the operations, she does the development, she does the donor communications, a professionally run office, highly digitized communications with India. So I kind of, I'm there for, any questions she may have and just give her a little cheerleading kind of support. But she is really running the show, and I'm so happy. So I think this is her opportunity to say whatever she wants to say. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Kailash, you always say that I'm the one-woman band. You don't know I have a whole orchestra behind me. All of these people. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ramesh was asking that, have you thought that what difference does it make to the donor when they donate? Not just the beneficiary. I would add to that, does it change the person who works in this field? I just completed a year this October. It has been an amazing journey, I feel honored, absolutely humbled by our scholars, by their love, by their dedication, and all of your support. We just could not have been in this place without you. So thank you so much. Thank you to the board. Thank you to our whole team of volunteers. Please give them a big hand. It is just amazing how they have come through. Hours and hours of work behind this. And Ram, he is just so creative. Thank you for all your support. And the board, we have an amazing board. Thank you. Thank you, Sudha, for coming down. I am truly blessed to be in this place. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the evening. Have a great night.